Well, welcome in, Tiger fans, live to another edition of Friday afternoon, a Good Friday edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is Friday, April 3rd, 2026. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your Good Friday to tune in to the show. Gonna be an LSU baseball pregame / weekend preview as the Tigers take on Tennessee on the road in Knoxville this weekend. First pitch this afternoon is at 4:30, so we are now a little bit less than an hour and a half away from first pitch of game one. 5 p.m. is the game two first pitch tomorrow, and then the weekend series in Knoxville finishes off at noon Easter Sunday for game three. So again, thank you folks for tuning in. I really hope all of you are having a phenomenal, fantastic, good Friday and have a great Easter weekend with your family. And Easter's one of my favorite holidays, one of my favorite holidays always. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Before we get into this LSU Tennessee preview, want to tell you, of course, as always, about our daily sponsors over at the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC team in the business today. Remember that number, 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU. You call the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC team in the business today, at that number. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and you will be receiving completely free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home, courtesy of our friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Best AC team in the business today. They're reliable, they're trustworthy, they're wonderful. We love them and greatly appreciate them for being the daily title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning in. Let's get into it. So, LSU at Tennessee, we've seen great things over the years in this series, kind of a rivalry that has developed here in baseball with really Jay Johnson versus Tony Vitello. In my mind, Jay Johnson, he's the best college baseball coach in America today. And when Tony V was in college baseball, he was right behind him at number two. And we've seen some great things in this series over the years. I remember the last year that Paul Mainieri coached at LSU in 2021. Tennessee knocked LSU out of the Super Regional, won the Super Regional over LSU. Remember in 2023, Tennessee lost to LSU. LSU beat Tennessee twice in Omaha on the way to that national championship. Remember last year, of course, you had the Jared Jones walk-off home run in the box after 1 a.m. What a fantastic moment that was. So you've seen a lot of great things in the series over the years. Now, of course, it's different now. There's a big hole in the Tennessee dugout. Tony Vitello is not there anymore. He's now coaching the San Francisco Giants in the MLB. Josh Elander has stepped up, was an assistant at Tennessee. Now he has stepped up in 2026 and taken over the reins as the head man of this Tennessee baseball program. We'll get into kind of what it's been for them. It hasn't been the greatest start to the season, the greatest start to SEC play. They're actually 3-6 in their first 9 SEC games, 19-10 overall record, or they're 3-6. They're 3-6 in SEC play through 9 games. They lost on the road 2 out of 3 at Georgia in Athens, the first weekend of SEC play. Kind of crazy way to lose a series. They lost that Sunday rubber match when basically Georgia walked it off in phenomenal fashion by getting a walk-off home run robbery. The outfielder, the left fielder for Georgia, made an incredible catch at the wall, robbing a Tennessee home run to get the final out of that game and win the series for Georgia 2 out of 3. Then Tennessee would go on to beat Missouri at home 2 out of 3 in Knoxville the next weekend. And then last weekend, Tennessee got swept by Vanderbilt on the road in Nashville and lost in 3 straight days. Vanderbilt walked off the Tennessee Volunteers. I know they walked them off in 10 innings. They walked them off in a 16-inning game. And then they walked them off in a 9-inning game as well. Just terrible ways to lose this Tennessee team. 3-6 on the young SEC play. season. So hasn't started out as well as Josh Elander wanted it to in his first season, obviously. But when you look at it, Knoxville is always a difficult place to play. It's always a very difficult place to play. It's a ballpark that is a very offensive friendly, hitter friendly ballpark. It's a small ballpark. A lot of home runs have been hit in Lindsey Nelson Stadium over the years. So it's a small ballpark when you look at it, and it's very offensive, hitter friendly, and Knoxville is always a hard place to play. I mean, your next 2 weekends of SEC play, your LSU, you head to Knoxville this weekend, and then you play in Oxford against Ole Miss next weekend. That is a brutal 2-week stretch. You're not talking about just 2 road series in a row, but you're talking about Knoxville and Oxford, 2 of the toughest places to play in the country. It is going to be a very competitive, highly competitive series. We'll get into Tennessee shortly. Let's see here. David Billiot Jr., what is up, my friend? Thank you, David. Hope you and your family are doing well. Hope all of you are doing well. Thank you for taking your time out of out of your Good Friday to tune in into the show. So yeah, 3-6 in SEC play so far for this Tennessee squad, whereas LSU is 4-5 in SEC play. Let's get into some numbers, run through some stats for this Tennessee Volunteer team. We'll start with their offense. When you look at their numbers, they're kind of Tony Vitello teams in the past. I know he's not there anymore, but Josh Elander's there this year. But Tony Vitello teams in the past have been really good offensively, especially at the power hitting, home run hitting with the ballpark they play in and everything. The numbers are down definitely this year for this Tennessee offense. You're talking about a team that is 13th currently in the SEC in team batting average, 9th in the conference in home runs with 44 on the season, 44 bombs on the season, 15th in the SEC as an offense in walks drawn, also 15th in the SEC on base percentage as well. So you're talking about a Tennessee team that in the past has been really good at hitting the long ball and had really good power numbers. That's not this team on paper, at least coming into this series. They've struggled to start SEC play, obviously, with that 3-6 record and offensively. Some guys at the plate for Tennessee that you need to pay attention to. I would say the 2 of the top guys to pay attention to are Henry Ford and Manny Marin. So when we talk about Henry Ford, Ford has a 328 batting average on the season, leads the Tennessee team with 10 homers, and has a team leading 30 RBIs as well for Henry Ford. I did get some of these numbers from Hunt Palmer, had a great article that he released earlier today. And then also from just stats that you can find anywhere. But Ford, 328, 30 RBIs, 10 homers, leads Tennessee's team in homers and RBIs. But Ford is only batting .225 in 9 games in SEC play so far. So his numbers have definitely gone down in conference play. But he leads this Tennessee team in homers and in RBIs. You go to Manny Marin. I'd say Ford and Marin are the top 2 guys you want to pay attention to. Marin is batting .330 with 4 bombs and 19 RBIs. There's also Blaine Brown. Blaine Brown has 8 homers with 25 RBIs. But again, Blaine Brown is only hitting .211 in conference plays. So some of the top guys for this Tennessee offense have gone cold through the first 3 series and first 9 games of SEC play. A few more guys that you want to get into. Reese Chapman, who has been on Tennessee in past years, coming back. Reese Chapman leads this Tennessee offense with 11 doubles. Garrett Wright leads the team in batting average at .333. And then you have Levi Clark. Levi Clark actually leads this Tennessee team in hitting in the SEC. So through the first 3 series of SEC play for this Tennessee team, Levi Clark leads them in hitting with a batting average of .304 through the first 3 weekends of SEC play for Levi Clark, batting .304. Now, Clark has only played in 6 of the 9 SEC games that Tennessee has played so far. So he doesn't have as many SEC at-bats as some of the other top hitters in the Tennessee lineup. But Clark has started in the last 7 games for this Tennessee team. And again, he leads them in team batting average in conference play so far at 304. But when you look at this Tennessee offense, you're looking at a team who their offensive numbers are definitely down this year, 13th in batting average. They're 9th in homers. And when you're talking about a team in Tennessee who's usually up near the top of the league in homers, that's not what they look like this year. So that's what they look like offensively. On the mound, there's definitely been some rotation and some they've shifted, and their starting rotation has kind of fluctuated and changed over the past couple of weeks. But we'll talk about the guys that they have on the mound. Starting today, who's the guy they have on the mound for this Friday game? Game 1. Well, this will be their 4th Friday game in the SEC, their 4th series in the SEC. This is their 3rd Friday night starter so far. So Tegan Kuhns was their ace to start the season. Tegan Kuhns started the first 6 Fridays of the season for this Tennessee team. And he didn't start last weekend. So last weekend, Kuhns came out of the bullpen for Tennessee when they played Vanderbilt in Nashville. Kuhns is back in the starting rotation, but he's going to start tomorrow in Game 2 on Saturday. So making his first Friday start of the season for Tennessee is right-hander Landon Mack. So right-hander Landon Mack, 7 starts on the season, 3.89 ERA, 3-2 record, 48 strikeouts to 16 walks in 37 innings pitched for Landon Mack. Mid-90s fastball. He's got a good pitch mix, about 4 or 5 pitches that he throws, and he throws all of them. Fastball, cutter, slider, changeup, and stuff like that. So he's got a good pitch mix. And David, you talked about it on the show Wednesday night about Landon Mack's pitchability and just being able to throw all 4 to 5 pitches that he throws for Landon Mack. Now, SEC hitters are batting .371 off of Mack with 23 hits and 4 homers hit off of Mack in his 3 SEC starts prior to the start he's going to make today. So he struggled a little bit in SEC play against SEC competition, but that is the arm you will see on the mound today in Game 1. Like I said, you'll see right-hander Tegan Kuhns on the mound tomorrow for Tennessee. He was the Friday night guy. He's probably got the best pure stuff of any pitcher on this Tennessee pitching staff. He was the Friday night guy for this team the first 6 weeks of the season. What didn't start last weekend, came out of the bullpen. He's back in the starting rotation. Kuhns has struggled at times, but he's got pretty good stuff. Like, he's got elite stuff. And this Tennessee team definitely was confident in him as their Friday night guy to start the season. But he's going to start in Game 2. Righty Tegan Kuhns is going to start Saturday. He's made 7 appearances on the season, 6 starts, 1-3 record, 46 strikeouts to only 6 walks on the season. So a really good K to walk ratio, 35 1/3 innings pitched. Mid-90s fastball, a really nice slider, and a changeup as well that will fade away from left-handed batters. So Tegan Kuhns going to start tomorrow for Tennessee. Probably the best pitcher in terms of pure stuff on this Tennessee team, but he hasn't like the numbers and the performance hasn't added up to that this season for Tegan Kuhns. He's got elite stuff, but opponents are hitting .327 off of Kuhns so far in conference play in the SEC, which is pretty high at .327. Let's see. Game 3, the Sunday starter. So Game 3, your starter is going to be a left-hander in Evan Blanco. Blanco has a 4.00 ERA, 7 starts, 2-2 record, 46 Ks to 16 walks in 36 innings pitched. Blanco has a high 80s/low 90s fastball, so doesn't throw as hard as some of the other big arms on this Tennessee pitching staff, but he's got a really good slider, Blanco does, and a changeup as well. Now, Blanco did give up 9 runs and 8 hits in his start last weekend in Nashville against Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt hit off of him pretty well when you look at it. So that's going to be the guy who throws Sunday. And then there's 2 arms out of the bullpen that I also wanted to point out too. One of them is another left-hander in Brandon Arvidsson. So Arvidsson has one start on the season. So he actually started last Friday against Vanderbilt, took over for Tegan Kuntz last Friday. Arvidsson is going to be back in the bullpen this weekend in Knoxville for Tennessee against LSU, one of their best bullpen arms. Made 7 appearances on the season. Let's see. He's got 3.54 ERA, 1-0 record, 28 Ks, 7 walks, 20 and 1/3 innings pitched. Mid-90s fastball, slider, change up as well for Arvidsson. So he's one of their best bullpen arms. He got his one start on the season last weekend against Vandy on that Friday start, but he's going to be back in the bullpen this weekend is Arvidsson. And really, when you look at the numbers, though, the best pitcher on this staff, when you look at the numbers, is actually a freshman left-hander in Cam Appenzeller. So Cam Appenzeller is a left-handed freshman who has really, really phenomenal numbers for Tennessee. I mean, Appenzeller, the lefty, has the lowest ERA on this Tennessee pitching staff, 1.37 ERA in 9 appearances with no starts, 29 Ks to 4 walks, and 26 and 1/3 innings for Appenzeller. I mean, he's made 3 appearances so far in conference play. He's pitched 13 and 1/3 innings so far in conference play and has not given up a run yet in 13 and 1/3 innings of SEC play and 3 appearances. So Appenzeller, the lefty, has been really, really dominant for this Tennessee pitching staff. And in terms of the numbers, he's been the best pitcher, and he's definitely been their best reliever and best arm out of the bullpen, Cam Appenzeller. Appenzeller also in 13 and 1/3 innings pitched of conference play also has 13 strikeouts to only 1 walk in 3 SEC appearances. So, yeah, just dominant, phenomenal numbers put up by left-hander Cam Appenzeller. He's got a low 90s fastball, around 92, 93, slider, and a changeup as well. But especially for a freshman in the SEC through your first 3 weeks in the SEC as a freshman, to not give up a single run in your first 13 and 1/3 innings pitched in conference play as a true freshman, that's pretty phenomenal when you look at the numbers, folks, for this Tennessee team. Let's get into some of the comments. Let's see. There's David. Thank you, David. Thank you, Joker. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Randy. Greatly appreciate it. What's up, AP? AP did a phenomenal show this morning. AP show this morning. I really enjoyed it. I know he does his coffee and tea with AP that I think he only planned to go like 10 minutes today, because that's what it's been on the first couple of times he did it. And it went over an hour today. I don't think he expected that, but I really enjoyed AP's show this morning. If y'all want to go back and tune into that, Randy, yeah, AP show, I really enjoyed your show this morning, brother. And I know you didn't expect for that show. I mean, I enjoy all your shows, of course, but I know you didn't expect for that show to go over an hour, but just really enjoyed it. So those are a few numbers on this SEC team, and I'd love for some of your thoughts in the comments below on what you're thinking heading into this weekend. I'll go through some of my keys, some of my things I'll be paying attention to this weekend. Hold on, let me get a little bit of a refreshment, little nice Propel water here. Propel is not a sponsor of the show, though, so that's Shield Heating and Cooling. Let's see. We got another comment here. Don't want to miss it. Thank you all for being there. Of course, brother. Of course. Of course. All right. A few things I think we should pay attention to this weekend, and y'all give some of y'all's main things y'all are looking at this weekend for this series in the comments below. One of the main things for me is in the last 2 games, for LSU. So against game 3 against Kentucky last Sunday and the midweek game against Southern, the Tigers started really slow in those games. I mean, you go down 7-0 after the top of the 3rd inning against Kentucky. Then you go down 6-1 after the top of the 3rd inning Tuesday night against Southern. I know you bounced back in big ways in both of those games, but you've struggled at times really throughout the 2026 season. I think a problem for this LSU team at times has definitely been starting slow. I think we've seen that throughout the season, and you've seen it in 2 straight games now. You can't have that in the SEC, on the road in the SEC in particular, because you are playing in a very, very hostile environment. You are playing a team coming off getting swept by basically their in-state rivals last weekend in Vanderbilt and Nashville, and they got walked off 3 times by Vanderbilt and Nashville last weekend. So if there's any team that's coming into this weekend hungry and ready to get that bad taste out of their mouth, it's Tennessee. So you're walking into that. You're walking into Lindsey Nelson Stadium, which we know is a hard place to play, and you're walking into Knoxville. You got to be able to start better. You got to be able to start better, because if you start down, 6-0, 7-0 early and get into a big hole, that would spell disaster. You just can't have that on the road in the SEC. Maybe the box, maybe at home can will you back in that situation, but you're playing in hostile environments really 3 out of the 4 next weekends you play. We've always talked about the stretch as one of the hardest stretches of the season you're going into. At Tennessee, at Ole Miss, home A&M, at Mississippi State. I talked about it since the season began, about how hard this 4-week stretch that you're coming into was going to be, and you got to be able to start better. You got to be able to start better in these games. So that is definitely something that I'm going to be looking to. Offensively, you've been really good offensively over your past few games. You've seen a power surge offensively. I mean, you put up 52 runs in your last 5 games as an offense. LSU has. You've also got a situation where you put up 52 runs in your past 5 games. You put up 7 home runs. You hit 7 home runs in your last 2 games alone. You hit I want to say 3 Sunday against Kentucky and then 4 Tuesday against Southern. So you've seen a power surge, and you've seen really good things from this offense. Something I've talked about is I really like in games 2 and game 3 of the Kentucky series, you drew 9 walks offensively in game 2 against Kentucky, and you drew 11 walks in game 3 against Kentucky on Sunday. So I also like getting back into the Jay Johnson offense and all of that. Getting back into that, it's not just raking, which you have done. You've been very good offensively over your past few games. You've also been really good in terms of plate discipline. I've talked about since the second weekend when, remember that series in Jacksonville when the Notre Dame head coach talked about the number one thing that stood out to him about the LSU offense early. Now, this was early in the season, was their elite plate discipline. And I think you saw that come back a little bit against Kentucky when you drew 9 walks and 11 walks in games 2 and 3 of that series. You've been really good. You've also, like I said, you've hit 7 bombs in your last 2 games alone. And that's a really good sign coming into a very hitter-friendly ballpark, a very small ballpark that a lot of home runs have been hit in Lindsey Nelson Stadium over the years. Everybody knows it's a small ballpark. It's an offensive ballpark. It's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Everybody knows that, and you're coming off of 2 games where you've hit 7 bombs in your last 2 games. I've raved about Seth Dardar and John Pearson and how awesome they have been lately. I mean, Dardar, Wright and Sharpie at second base, Wright, Pearson, and Sharpie at third base. We've talked about that. Derek Curiel has hit bombs now in back-to-back games. Curiel seems like he's finding it. He's been playing really well lately. Stephen Milam is 8 for 20, so batting .400 in his last 20 at-bats for Stephen Milam, and he hit 2 bombs Tuesday in the midweek game for LSU against Southern. I will say, now I don't have the numbers here, and I point this out, not saying I'm concerned about it, because I'm not concerned about it. Jake Brown has kind of cooled off recently in the past few games, if we're being honest. Jake Brown's kind of cooled off recently when you look at it. Now, I'm not worried about Jake Brown at all. Jake Brown has been the best player in this offense this season. He started first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. He was like a Golden Spikes Award winner caliber player. He's cooled off a little bit in his past couple of games. He'll find it out. He'll figure it out, and he'll be fine. But Dardar, Pearson, all of those guys have been great. Curiel, Milam, Stanny went 4 for 5 last Sunday as well. So you've really seen a lot of good things from this offense. And again, you're going into a very offensive hitter-friendly ballpark at Lindsey Nelson Stadium this weekend against Tennessee. I do want to talk about this pitching staff for LSU. Now, Kason Evans is getting the start tonight. And I've said this. Look, I believe in Kason Evans as a Friday night guy. I've said that. You're especially not going to move him out of that role now because Cooper Moore is out. And for however long he's out, you're not taking Kason Evans out now. You shouldn't take him out now because I do believe in Kason Evans' ability and what he's able to do. I've talked about it. The frustrating thing is when you look at the numbers, Kason Evans has given up 26 hits this season. Only 4 of those hits have been extra base hits. So the issue is not that opponents are raking off of Kason Evans. That has never been the issue. That hasn't been the issue this year. That hasn't been the issue in his college career. It wasn't his issue last year. I mean, it's just not the issue that opponents are just raking and just mashing off of Kason Evans. He's got an ERA at 5.00 because of 19 walks, 4 hit by pitches, and 6 wild pitches on the season. That's the reason he's got a 5.00 ERA. So when you look at that, that is the thing for Kason Evans. And we saw it in the first 3 starts of SEC play. You have a bad start against Vanderbilt when in the first 3 innings of that game, you issue 6 free passes. And you struggled in that game. Now, you came back, and against Oklahoma, you had perhaps your best outing of your college career, pitching into the 8th inning, striking out 15 and only walking 1 and only giving up 1 run. You were awesome against Oklahoma, and then you come back and you issue 8 free passes in the first 3 innings of the game against Kentucky last Friday. Now, again, I do want to give you credit for coming back in the 4th, 5th, and 6th and managing to get through 6 innings, even after you struggled mightily in the first 3 innings of that game against Kentucky last Friday. Getting through 6 innings was really big, especially when you look at the fact, and it's going to be really big again this weekend, for however long Cooper Moore is out, it is going to be key every weekend until Cooper Moore gets back for Kason Evans and William Schmidt to go over 5 innings. That is going to be key for every weekend until Cooper Moore comes back. So Kason did struggle in the first 3 innings mightily in that game against Kentucky. You give him credit for bouncing back and showing resiliency in the 4th, 5th, and 6th of that game last weekend. And, Kason Evans going 6 innings was a big deal. And William Schmidt and Zach Cowan combining for the shutout Saturday was a big deal because you had to throw 8 pitchers out there to win that game in Game 3 on Sunday. And because Guidry struggled in that game in his start Sunday, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Kason Evans, again, the issue is not that opponents are raking off of Kason Evans. The issue is, and Jason Armstrong pointed this out in a good post earlier today with Inside LSU Baseball. He posted this on X. You'll be able to tell early what Kason Evans you have. You will be able to tell early what Kason Evans you have. And again, I believe in Kason Evans. He just got to throw more strikes. The issue is not that opponents are raking off of him. William Schmidt has been really good this season. I've always said he's got the best pure stuff of any pitcher on this pitching staff, and he's figured it out command-wise, and he's been really, really good for you. The thing that has stood out about William Schmidt the most to me through 3 SEC starts so far on the season is that how good William Schmidt has been with traffic on base, because he's dealt with a lot of it. William Schmidt has dealt with a lot of runners on base and a lot of traffic on base in all of his first 3 starts in the SEC, and he's always been able to do a phenomenal elite job of pitching out of it. That's the number one thing that stands out to me about Schmidt is he does not get flustered or concerned at all when he's dealing with traffic and runners on base. He's constantly able, in these first 3 starts he's made in SEC play, he's constantly been able to get out of it. And that's the number one thing that stood out to me. Again, for Evans and for Schmidt, for Evans and for Schmidt, excuse me, it's key for those guys to get to and over the 6th inning. It's key for them to pitch 5+ innings. That is key for as long as Cooper Moore is out. I will say if there's one thing that concerns me this series, and I hate saying concern because I do love Gavin Guidry. I love him. I love what he's done at LSU. I believe in him, especially out of the bullpen. He's a great closer. He's probably your best reliever on the team. When I saw yesterday that you're throwing him out there again on Sunday for the Sunday start, that's one of my big concerns this weekend. I've said it. I love Gavin Guidry. I love him as a closer. I don't love him as much as a starter. He brings so much energy, so much fire, so much intensity to your baseball team that is so good and so crucial for late inning clutch pitching situations. But as a starter, a guy you want to extend and go multiple innings, I mean, he really struggled last weekend against Kentucky. He gave up 6 earned runs in just 1 1/3 innings in his last start against Kentucky. And I hope I'm wrong. Like, I want to be proven wrong here. I absolutely want to be proven wrong here. And I have no problem with Gavin Guidry as your closer. And I do trust Jay Johnson. But like I said this week, I would have thrown Cowan out there on Sunday. Zach Cowan has been absolutely excellent. He's been your best pitcher through 9 games of conference play so far. And he's got the starting experience. Remember, at Wofford in 2024, he was the ace and he threw 110 innings as the ace at Wofford in 2024. Remember that start he had for you, that excellent start he had for you in Omaha in the CWS against Arkansas last year. So Cowan has the starting experience, and he's also been phenomenal over the past 3 weekends. So I would have put Cowan out there. You're not. And I know one of Jay's philosophies, he's always said, we're going to have at least 1 to 2 of our best pitchers is always going to be in the bullpen because you need those guys in the bullpen for your late game situations, especially in conference play. And I understand that. But I will say, if there's one thing I'm concerned about, and again, this is not me, getting down on Gavin Guidry. I love him. I love him. I love him. But I'm a little bit hesitant about Sunday. I'm a little bit hesitant about Sunday because of what we saw last weekend and because the type of pitcher that Gavin is, he works so well as a closer, and we haven't seen that translate to being a starter yet this season. I think it's going to be a really interesting weekend. It is going to be a really competitive weekend. And I know this Tennessee team is 3-6 in SEC play, and they're not playing their best ball, but it's on the road in SEC in one of the toughest places to play in the country in Knoxville. And we've seen some great things in this series over the past couple of years. And I will say, like, LSU was 2-4 in their first 6 games. They were struggling coming into that Kentucky series. And LSU took 2 out of 3 at home against the top 20 team in the country in Kentucky at the time. So just because Tennessee might be struggling in their first 3 weeks of the season, I mean, LSU was first 3 weeks of SEC play, mind me. LSU was struggling in their first 2 weeks of SEC play too, and then they beat a top 20 team in the country. So it's going to be a tough weekend. It's going to be a competitive weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm going to take the Tigers to win 2 out of 3. It's really a toss-up for me, guys. Like, it's really, really a toss-up. I do like how your offense is trending. I do really like how your offense is trending, especially going into a very hitter-friendly, offensive-friendly ballpark. So I'm going to take the Tigers. It's a toss-up for me. You're in Knoxville. It's a hard place to play. And, man, it's going to be an exciting weekend. I want to get into some of these comments real quick. Hold on. Let's get into some of these comments. Let's see. Randy, he said, I started rewatching. Talk about. I think you're talking about what you and AP were talking about earlier. I know y'all were talking about Ed in the car earlier and stuff going on there. Again, AP show this morning. Talking about, AP show this morning was awesome. Let's see. Lineup is out. Let's see. Milam, Brown, Cerna, Curiel, Dardart, Pearson, York, Braun, Staney, Mason Braun. I want to point Braun out there again. When you look at it, Mason Braun, he had a really good game for you last Saturday in game 2 of that Kentucky series. He had that 3-run homer, and then he had that double as well. So Mason Braun was a real key contributor for you in game 2 of that series last week against Kentucky. He's another guy who stood out last weekend and really stepped up. So you like Mason Braun and what he's been able to do lately, and especially with that 3-run bomb and that double that he hit last weekend for you in game 2 of the Kentucky series. So Mason Braun getting the start at DH. Let's see. Yeah. All right. All right. So yeah, again, AP show earlier today was awesome. AP show earlier today was awesome. Y'all need to go back and check into that. I will say I'm interested in how K Dare and BD might be used this weekend. I'm interested in how BD might be used this weekend. And yeah, just I, he's back. Like he was. Jay Johnson said he was hurt, not injured, but he was hurt. He was banged up. He started against Southern as a catcher against Southern. Maybe he comes in as a DH role. Maybe he starts one game at catcher this weekend. I do like Cerna at catcher. I do really like Cerna at catcher. So I'm interested in how BD is used this weekend. I'm really interested in this series. Really excited for this series. Again, I thank all of you folks for taking your time out of your Good Friday to tune into the show. I greatly appreciate it. I pray and hope that you and your families all have a phenomenal Easter weekend. Let's see. Yeah, I pray all of you have a phenomenal Easter weekend. And today is Good Friday. Remember, like I said yesterday, faith is a big part of my life. Remember what Good Friday and what Easter is all about. And Jesus loves you. Again, I'll reiterate, Jesus loves you and he wants a relationship with you. And yeah, Jesus loves you. God loves you. And take his sacrifice and what he's done for you and his sacrificial love that he's poured out for you and show that to others. Love people, love God, love Jesus, love people, love your family, and make a positive impact in somebody's life this weekend. I'm really excited for the series this weekend. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Have a phenomenal weekend, folks. Have a great Easter weekend, a great rest of your Good Friday, a great Easter Sunday. Hopefully the Tigers can pull it out. But I thank you so much for tuning into the show. I'll see you on Monday. Again, have a great Easter weekend. Thank you folks so much for tuning in. God bless. Go Tigers. Babin says, peace out. Have a great weekend. Later.